Welcome to Encounter Grace, where we help Christians think clearly. My name's Jason McKnight. I'm here with Justin Tillman. Justin, how are you today?
I'm doing really well today. Hope you are.
I mean, just really well. I mean, every time I ask you, you're supposed to have something different every time.
There's something sanctifying about the stairs coming up to the studio. It just makes everything go away.
People don't know we're on the 5th floor here at Grace. The stairs are a long
Studio
way.
1B.
We can't afford an elevator, so we're 5 stories up. Well, we're going to disagree about which level we're on today, but we're not going to lose a friendship over it.
That's right.
So what are we talking about today? The secret to disagreeing without dividing.
Yeah, we are trying to, what we're going to talk about today is how do you talk to each other in a way that doesn't just cause rupture in the relationship. I mean, we are living in a culture where we are really talking past each other in a lot of different ways, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's just personal preferences. I mean, it go anywhere you want to, and we live in a polarized society. Think of like a Thanksgiving dinner that goes sideways, or an online debate that turns ugly, or maybe even a church disagreement that splits up a group or might split up a church. Yeah, there's just conversations so quickly can escalate into conflict. And what we want to do today is talk through why that happens and then give some practical steps or tools to help us as we have these conversations with each other to not let them divide us, even though they might be contentious.
And so we're really talking about conversations in the social sphere, as opposed to, let's say, supervisor-employee conversations.
Correct.
Or, hey, we need to talk through husbands and wife in the deep communications. Okay, yeah, that's a different podcast or a different moment. But what we're talking about is just how things go along, and then someone says, I think this, someone says, I think that, and you're an idiot. And how do we not say you're an idiot? How instead do we say, why do you think that, and where do we go? Because that's hard to do.
It is, and I think you spend 5 seconds on any social media platform, and you can probably see why this episode's necessary. Somebody shares an opinion or they share perspective, and immediately, because of the outrage economy that we live in, immediately it's, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. You're horrible. How could you be a Christian and say that? And it just completely derails into this shouting match. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think that's more common than it is an exception. So this podcast episode today is to help us think through that. Mm-hmm. So in the social sphere, some of the things we'll talk about today, you can use in conversations with your spouse. You could use in conversations with an employee or your supervisor, but it's mainly for what we're thinking about primarily is the social sphere. So our interactions with friends, or interactions with neighbors, or interactions with neighbors online, wherever they might be.
Well, so what do we need to start with? How are we gonna get into this?
Yeah. First thing I thought would be good to talk about is why this is going on. So what are a couple of the psychological things that are going on behind the scenes? The first thing is confirmation bias. Maybe you've heard that term before, but we are wired to look for things that prove us right. So that's
why I'm always right.
Exactly. And so if I think something, I'm more prone to accept information that's going to support what I already believe, rather than look for things that are going to challenge that belief.
Yeah.
And social media, the algorithms behind social media exacerbate that. They take that and they put it on steroids, because the algorithm is designed to keep you on the platform. So it's going to give you things that it knows you want to see. So it really creates this echo chamber around you. We talked about this before. People will say, well, I can't believe you
everyone's
think that.
But mine. My algorithm gives me truth.
Well, yours is the exception then. But you think about it. People will be like, I can't believe you think that, or how can you not see X? Well, chances are they probably are not.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because their social media algorithm's not showing it to them. So when you log on to Facebook, when you log on to Twitter or X, you log on to LinkedIn, you name it. When you log on, you are getting a curated homepage that is perfectly tailored to you and what you like. So if you have a particular political opinion, you're not going to see stuff from the other political side unless it's clickbait from somebody who's trying to straw man that political argument. Yeah. So confirmation bias, that's one of the things that drives it.
We see the things we want to see, and we keep getting the evidence that proves we're right.
Yeah.
Doggone it.
And then we have this pesky thing called tribalism.
Not me.
Yeah, no, not you at all.
I'm so glad I'm above this.
You're a tribe of one.
I'm a tribe of one, and nobody wants to.
Does that count as a tribe?
Nobody wants to be in my tribe. I'm telling you.
But tribalism, and that's just a term to say that we identify and belong to people on our side. As social creatures, we want to belong. We want to be a part of a group. We want to fit. And we have this bent in us that once we find our group, that's our group. And you're either in or you're out. And so when tribalism kicks in, we identify and belong to our side, and we instinctively distrust anybody on the other side. So that's that concept of tribalism. So yeah, if I get in a political camp, or I get in a theological camp, or I get in just whatever camp. Denominational camp. Everybody outside of that is, if not wrong, at least suspect. So.
That is good. Oh man, it just lost me what I was going to say. Never mind. Keep going. I'll come back to it.
If you were in a tribe, then somebody else could have picked that up for you.
Helped. Well, and part of this is like, okay, you brought it back. Actually, God gives us tribes, and they're called our family. Like we are born into, ideally, in the ideal sense, a mom and a dad and some kids, and that's your first tribe and your best tribe, and that's okay. That's proper.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's God, because the newborns and the toddlers, they need to know who they are. They need to belong to a group and have this sense of group identity and bonding. Okay, great. It's the problem is, now that we're all adults, and now that we have the gospel, we're still living with that little person tribal outlook. But actually, the whole point of the gospel is to love your enemies, even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah.
But is not to just write them off as part of the wrong tribe.
Yeah.
So,
and these three psychological drivers, we're getting ready to do the third one, but the main reason we want to talk about them is so you're aware of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that tribalism is necessarily, it's not bad to be in a group and not bad to be protective of that group. The problem is when we don't realize that we have a level of distrust for anybody who's not in that group.
Yeah.
And so just with confirmation bias, if I know, and just admit, be honest, I have a little bit of a bias here, I can still have the conversation, but at least I'm aware that I'm seeing it through a certain lens. And so I need to take that into account.
Excellent. So confirmation bias, tribalism, which is in group taken too far.
Yep.
Okay. And then what's the third psychological driver?
This last one I think is really important, moral certainty. So it's where we start to equate disagreement with immorality. So if you don't see it my way, then you don't care about the truth. If you don't see it my way, then you don't care about social justice. If you don't see it my way, then you don't care about racism, or you go down the line. If you don't see it the way that I see it, then you're morally wrong. And to me, that kind of is the last big thing. When you've got confirmation bias, when you've got tribalism, you end up with moral certainty of, okay, well, anybody who's not in our group,
sidekick.
Exactly, you're morally wrong. So not just do I disagree with you, but you're morally wrong. And so I can actually, this can lead us into starting to see those outside of our group, or those we disagree with, as a little bit less than us, or less human. That's where you can easily start to throw out the word, well, you're a bigot, well, you're a sexist, where you're this or you're that, because we're starting to equate it with morality.
Right. All right. So these are why, when people do disagree, why our tendency is to divide, is to actually separate. Well, because of the confirmation bias, tribalism into moral certainty, this conglomerate.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we not get there?
Yeah, well, that's a good question.
What can we do against that, now that you've diagnosed it all and seen myself in each of those 3 bullet points?
Well, I think we go back to, we start with identity. When our identity is more rooted in opinions or affiliations than in Christ, then every disagreement is going to feel like a personal attack, because I've attached my identity to this thing, this issue, or this opinion, or this perspective. So we stop seeing people as image bearers, and we actually start seeing the person as an issue that I need to win against. And I think, like you said earlier, let's go back to, what did Jesus say? He said, love your enemies. So let's run with the tribalism idea that if you're not in our group, you're an enemy. Well, what did Jesus say? love your enemy.
Love. Yeah.
So when we
which doesn't mean agree with everything they say.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point of this episode.
Yeah.
Is how do you love someone through the disagreement?
Yeah. This episode is not how to get to an agreement.
Yeah.
This episode is how to have the conversation without completely losing each other in the process.
Yeah, that's right. Because each other, that's what God loves.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, your issue is your issue, the thing, but he loves the person.
Yeah.
You, them, everyone.
And if we look at the way Jesus did it, he pushed truth, but it was anchored in love.
Yeah.
And he never softened the truth, but he was loving in his interactions with people. And he expressed that love humbly. So it's not that you have to let go of your position or let go of your opinion, but how can you communicate it to someone in a way that you're open to hearing what they have to say, and you're still loving them as a person, even though in this issue, we might be at totally different ends of the spectrum.
In Ephesians, where it says, speak the truth in love, that's a great one. Speak the truth in love. And actually, there's no verb speak. The verb is truth. Truth in love. Truthing in love.
Yeah.
He truths, she truths, they truth, we truth.
In love.
Truth in love. But yeah, you got to live and do and be and proclaim and adhere to truth, but it's all in love. So yeah.
No, that's good. Amen.
Well, let's talk about faithful dialogue, because I think this is a way forward to disagree without dividing. This beautiful little concept called faithful dialogue.
Yeah. So it's not just civility. It's not politeness. What this concept of faithful dialogue is it's about engaging other people in a way that honors the truth, but preserves the relationship. Or I wouldn't say but, and preserves the relationship. Honors the truth and preserves the relationship. So it's a dialogue that reflects the character of Christ. So it's gracious, it's truthful, and it's redemptive. And I keep highlighting truth because I don't want people to think that, well, in order for me not to lose this relationship, I've got to budge on what I sincerely believe. It's not what I'm saying. But how do we do so in a way that's gracious and has a redemptive nature to it? So that's the overarching idea of what faithful dialogue is.
I have a great example of this in a friend of mine's life. She, before she was a believer, she was practicing lesbian. When she came to Christ, she began to wrestle with, what does God call her to in her sexuality? And she said, as she walked those initial few months and however many weeks and months of her journey, she said and this was 15 years later, she said the absolute most important thing was the church that she was a part of, the loving, truth-oriented church, the gospel-believing church, saying, we love you, but this is wrong, but we love you. She said that again. Is that everyone, meaning the few people who were discipling her, just would say, oh, we love you and we're committed to you and we see God's word, and this is wrong, and we love you.
Yeah.
And she said, if they would have fudged in the middle one and not told me that's wrong, I wouldn't have received hope and healing. But we love you, but this is wrong, but we love you. That's maybe the beginning. That's an example of faithful dialogue. But let's break it down. What else is going on?
Yeah. So when we talk about faithful dialogue, the first thing I want to talk about is what's the posture of faithful dialogue. And it's this idea of charitable listening. And charitable listening is just simply, when I'm talking to you and we're disagreeing, I'm going to assume the best of your intentions rather than the worst of your argument. So as we're talking, I'm going to assume the best about you. I'm going to assume that you are genuinely caring about what you're talking about, that I'm going to assume that you want what's best for me or society, and that's where you're arguing from. Now, I know assumptions can be wrong, but that's not what we're talking about. We're just saying, as I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to start with the assumption of your best intentions rather than assuming, like I said, the absolute worst of your argument. So there's that. When I listen to you, I'm going to be listening not to respond, but I am trying to understand where you're coming from. So as you're talking, I'm not in my head counterpointing everything you're saying. I am trying really hard to understand what you're talking about, why it's important to you, what it is you're actually saying, maybe what the ramifications are of what you're saying. And people are probably already thinking, well, this is a slow process. Exactly.
When you're disagreeing, you got to go slower.
It's a slow process because we want to understand what the other person is saying. So often an argument or a disagreement starts when there's a miscommunication or a misperception or a misunderstanding. So by listening to respond, actually listening not to respond, but trying to understand, then we do a lot of work in helping short circuit some of those misunderstandings and miscommunications. So when you say something to me, rather than jumping right out of the gate and responding to what I think I heard or what I think you meant, charitable listening is, hey, let me see if I got this right. So I think you're saying X. Is that right?
Right.
And that gives you a chance to go, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Or go, no, you misunderstood what I'm saying. Let me rephrase that a little bit. So I'm listening not to respond, but to understand. And I'm asking myself, what is this person really trying to express beneath their words? What is at the heart of what they're trying to say? So, let's use an example. Let's say we're talking about healthcare, and there's a lot of debate on whether there should be universal healthcare, subsidized healthcare, just private healthcare, all that stuff. We can talk, and I can be like, well, you don't care about people. Let's say you think it should all be privatized, and I think it should be universal.
Because I'm a big bad capitalist.
That's right. So I could easily say, well, you don't care about people. You want people to die. Is that true? No, but that is me listening to respond. I've got my tribalism in place, moral certainty in place. Instead, I should be going, what is Jason really trying to express here? I bet I'm going to assume Jason cares about people. He probably just thinks that this way is a more fruitful way to reach the end result of people being cared for. I disagree, perhaps, but that's me asking, what is Jason really trying to express? And it might be several things. It might be you're expressing a care for people, but you're also expressing a particular perspective on governance and proper governance. And that's just one example. I think we saw this a lot in the COVID pandemic when the vaccines came out, or is COVID real, and all that sort of stuff. And it was like, well, if you take the vaccine, you're a horrible person and you're just part of the system. Then over here, well, if you don't take the vaccine, you don't care about people. You want everybody to die. and that's just a prime example of what happens when we don't have this charitable listening.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's the key posture, charitable listening. Listening to not to respond, but to really understand, assuming the best about the person that you're talking to. Then there's this concept of emotional intelligence baked in here. Helping us,
we're talking about faithful dialogue.
Yes, this is still faithful dialogue.
Towards people when we disagree. Charitable listening first. Now we learn this thing called emotional intelligence.
Yeah, so regulating your emotions. Trying to stay calm even when the tension rises. So, disagreements, they can cause us to get really tense. Recognizing that and being able to note, when am I getting really tense here? What is my body doing? Are my ears getting hot? Like, am I tensing up? Is my jaw clenching? Paying attention to that. That's part of faithful dialogue. Recognizing what triggers you. So are there certain topics or certain tones in conversation that set you off? I have plenty.
I'd like to know those.
Yeah. So for me, disrespect. If I get a hint that you're belittling me, or the tone comes across that way, that immediately sets me off. So we can be talking about anything and we could be having a good conversation. But if I just sense, and I could be wrong, but if I sense that the tone is getting disrespectful or belittling or condescending, I'm going to start shutting down. Yeah. So recognizing what those topics are for you and what those different tones are for you that tend to be a trigger for you to start causing you to shut down or really ratchet up your emotions. And then being self-aware, trying to avoid defensiveness, trying to avoid condescension, because we're not fighting. We are having a conversation about a particular issue or a topic. We're not fighting each other. We're not physically harming each other. So being self-aware so that I avoid dropping out of charitable listening. I avoid dropping out of listening with the best intent, or I avoid dropping out of that aspect of listening for what you're trying to say and express with your words. So that's the emotional intelligence piece. And I think faithful dialogue, there's plenty in scripture to support that. James 1:19, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. First thing James says, be quick to listen. The other two things, opening your mouth and getting angry, slow down with those.
That's good.
So charitable listening, when you're talking to someone, be quick to actually listen to what they're saying. And, we said earlier, this is probably people going, oh, this is slow. Exactly. Be slow to speak and then slow to get angry. Don't jump to conclusions. Then you got Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath. And that gentle answer can still be full of truth, but a gentle answer, and I think that's an answer that is actually listening to what the person is saying, is recognizing them as a person, and is responding with grace and kindness, even though there's truth in it. That turns away wrath. And then I think you see Jesus doing this when he was talking to Nicodemus. They didn't necessarily agree. Nicodemus was asking a bunch of questions. Jesus was very gentle with Nicodemus. I mean, he did say, you're the teacher of Israel, don't you not know?
Right. He pushed him.
He did push,
but he wanted to draw him in relationally.
Yeah, but you don't see Nicodemus getting irate or anything like that. I mean, so they were both, I would say, both doing charitable, listening, faithful dialogue.
Well, it's interesting because in that situation, Jesus and Nicodemus both have a desire to learn, and that's not always present.
That's true.
So a lot of times in our disagreements or whatever is we enter these conversations sideways because, well, you just said something against whatever my hero, and now what am I? Am I going to just be quiet?
Yeah.
I got to say something, and then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so at least with Jesus and Nicodemus, we can see, he pushed him in direct. What do you mean? You're the teacher of Israel and you still didn't know that? But they had a heart to, Nicodemus wanted answers and Jesus wanted Nicodemus.
Yeah.
I don't always want the person across, the room to, I just want to win. So this is where I guess the emotional intelligence comes back.
I think
we got to be self-aware.
Exactly.
And if I can know that, then I don't have to keep
pushing.
I
think that's a part of that key posture of charitable listening is I'm coming into this conversation. I desire not to win. I desire to understand you. I desire to learn what it is you're saying. I desire to learn why it is you think that way.
So that then I can win.
So then I can shake my response and say, then I can win. But you're right. And I think that's important. Like the desire there. So when I'm come into the conversation charitably with good faith, with good intentions. And then, good. Jesus and the woman at the well, I think we see that there too.
Yes.
When he's talking to her, he's pushing, he's pressing, and she's getting uncomfortable. She's trying to change the subject, but he's expressing truth, but it's never with contempt. It's always truth without the contempt, with grace, even though Jesus pressed in and he asked some hard questions. But I think with both of those, Nicodemus and with the woman at the well, how did that conversation end?
Right.
We don't see Nicodemus in the moment becoming a follower of Jesus, but there's stuff to suggest that he did at one point. And the woman at the well, she runs into town to tell everybody, look who I found. So I think those are two examples that give us a model of faithful dialogue. But I think that is the key posture to have when we're going into these conversations with each other. And if you notice, nothing with faithful dialogue has said anything about winning, making a good case, or anything like that. Now, that's on you to learn the facts about what it is you believe or think.
Yeah,
this is just how do you talk to somebody who's different.
Because faithful dialogue is also not saying roll over and don't have opinions.
Yeah.
It's saying faithfully dialogue.
Yeah.
So what are some practical tools that we can use?
Yeah. So first of all, ask better questions. So instead of using statements that shut down a conversation, use questions that open it up. So, if we're sharing something, instead of me saying, well, that's just dumb, that shuts down the conversation. Where do you go from there? Yeah. That just shuts it down. That's a definitive statement. So instead, ask questions like, hey, help me understand what led you to that perspective. That's an open question. And then you get to learn more about them and what they think and why they think the way they do. Yeah. Maybe ask the question, can you tell me more about your experience with this particular issue or this topic? Because we don't come to our conclusions in a vacuum. There are lots of things that lead us to where we get. Yeah. Or say maybe that's interesting. How'd you come to see it that way? Again, disarming. There's no declaration of intent in that. It's just a question to open up. And I'd say that these questions can actually help you if you're wanting to quote unquote win the argument. These questions can help you because you actually begin to understand the other person's argument. And so rather than attacking straw man, you're actually speaking to the issue, why they came to be at the point they're at with the issue, and you learn more about them. And you may actually find in asking these questions that you have a lot more area of agreement than maybe this little slice of disagreement, but yet this is getting blown up to where it's ruining the relationship, where if I ask some questions, I may go, oh my goodness, we actually agree on 90% of this. We just disagree on maybe how to do it.
Right.
Which is a whole different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So asking better questions. And then when you're asking the questions, the listening, summarize what you hear the person saying.
Mm.
So something like this. So you're saying you're frustrated because X, or you're saying you're upset because of this, or you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying you think this is the correct way to do it because of this experience that you've had, or this book you read, or this class that you went to, or this conversation you had. And that gives the person a chance to say, yeah, that's right. You're hearing me.
Mm-hmm.
And that communicates respect, and it does reduce defensiveness, because, we've talked before about the power of attunement. And one of the reasons that we get so sideways on things sometimes is because I just feel like you're not with me in this. You're not hearing me. You're not listening to me. We're just talking past each other. These questions and this reflective listening help us attune to one another, so that as we're talking, I can still think in my head, well, Jason does not agree with me, but Jason's not against me. Like, Jason's trying to understand where I'm coming from. He's trying his best to get it. And it doesn't mean he'll agree with me, but even if we end up disagreeing at the end of the day, we know each other better. We've not lost the relationship, and we've actually maybe even grown a little bit closer because there's that goodwill and intentionality between us. So that's that first little bit is 2 little practical tools of questions and then better listening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think watch your tone and body language you kind of have down here.
Yeah.
I don't like to watch my tone. It's just so much more fun to pontificate and to attack you into a corner.
Yeah. Well, usually when I've heard watch your tone, it's been phrased in, hey, check your tone, man. Check your tone.
Yeah,
which kind of sets you off too. But
well, that's true.
But we've all heard that communication.
Just relax. As if that helps.
Or calm down. Just calm down.
Yeah. But watch that.
Yeah. I mean, most of our communication is nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
The words we say, we've joked before about statistics being made up. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard before that 90% of communication is the body language and 10% is the actual words.
Mm-hmm.
And with body language, we're talking tone, we're talking facial expressions. I've had conversations with people before. It's like, hey, I know you didn't mean to be condescending, and what you said isn't technically condescending, but the way your face looked, it makes me feel like I'm stupid. The way you scrunched up your head and looked at me, like, it just made me feel like I'm just an idiot and I'm not making sense, which is, and they would immediately say, that's not true. That's not what I meant.
Right.
But because I was able to say, hey, I'm just doing a body language check here. This is how it made me feel, the way you just looked at me. That gives the opportunity, instead of me going, oh, they're disrespecting me. They think I'm stupid. Getting it out there so that they have a chance to go, oh, no, that's not what I meant. Let me fix that.
Yep. And the way you said that is not you were disrespecting me. It's that the way you looked made me feel.
Exactly.
And that's you're communicating something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love these last 2. Focus on shared values and then know when to exit.
Yeah. So the shared values, I would say when you're in a conversation with someone, if you're desiring something, try to find the common ground. And it might be a tiny little sliver of land that's common ground. Mm-hmm. But try to find the common ground. It might be justice. You both care about justice. You just have different opinions on how we get there. You both care about truth. You both care about other people. And so try to find out what is it that we agree on so that we can start from there. And that starts to reframe the conversation as we rather than a me versus you. Because then it becomes, well, you don't think this is the case or you disagree. It becomes, hey, we both want people to be cared for. We just disagree on how to do that. Yeah. Well, let's bat around different ideas on how to do that. And we actually may come up with a better way to do something. But if we just went with, well, you hate people, or you just are with the system, you're the man.
Yep.
We immediately tear apart and the conversation ends. Maybe the relationship ends. We become estranged and nothing's accomplished. So finding that shared value that you can kind of both camp on, even if it's tiny, can be really helpful. And then I think this last one, like you said, knowing when to pause or exit. It's okay to step away if the conversation is getting unproductive or hostile. If you're doing all these things, you're trying to engage in faithful dialogue, but the conversation is obviously unproductive, very heated, it's okay to stop. It's okay to step away. And it's okay, to just say, hey, look, I value this relationship too much to let this get ugly. So let's talk about this again when we can both listen well.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in that's not shutting the conversation down. That's actually saying, hey, look, this issue is important, but my relationship with you, my friendship with you is way more important to me than where we both land on this particular issue. So I love this idea that a faithful conversation isn't one that lasts forever. It's one that preserves dignity on both sides.
That's good.
So
that's good.
The conversation doesn't have to just go on. It's also sometimes a good thing to say, hey, look, we're at an impasse here. Let's just hit pause. Let's table this for a bit and come back to it when we've had a chance to maybe both calm down a little bit, think about what we've talked about, and then maybe pick the conversation back up. So knowing when to pause it and to exit from that conversation is helpful too, because sometimes we go too far, too long, and we end up, especially when emotions get the best of us, we end up saying things that if we had stopped, we would have never said.
Absolutely.
And now we regret what we said.
We all know that.
Yeah. I mean, I've never done that, but I've heard of people doing that.
They do that in some other churches, not our church, but
yeah.
Well, good tools. Ask better questions, practice reflective listening, watch tone and body language, focused on shared values, know when to pause, know when to exit. These are very good. Let's talk as we think of what are the secrets to disagreeing without dividing. Let's talk about the power of perspective.
Okay. Yeah, so we talked early on in this episode about echo chambers, confirmation bias, all that sort of stuff. Growth requires that you get exposure to difference. You don't grow if you see the exact same thing all the time. You don't grow in your perspective. You don't grow in your opinions if you don't know what the opposites are.
Yeah.
So read and listen to people that you don't always agree with. And you're not reading to change sides. You're not reading this because I need to get to that page. You're reading it to understand the landscape of the issue, the landscape of the thought.
Is it okay to read to know how to destroy their argument from within and take them down? Like, no problem.
Maybe not with that perspective. Yeah. But again, just read and listen to people that you might not agree with. That's going to help you. And
it will.
Even if it doesn't change your opinion, it's going to make your argument better. Because now, rather than talking to straw men or not clear thought ideas, now you're actually able to shape your argument or your opinion in response to what the other side actually says or believes or thinks. So it's going to make you more informed. It's going to make your opinion better. Your opinion may be stronger, and it may actually change your opinion. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
But if you never interact with anybody who thinks differently than you, then all you're going to do is solidify that echo chamber. The tribalism is going to grow, and that moral certainty is going to increase to where anybody outside of your group is increasingly less than or the enemy.
That's good.
So different viewpoints. Empathy, I think, is a big one. Trying to imagine the experiences or the fears that shaped another person's belief. Like we said earlier, beliefs don't come out of a vacuum. So in trying to understand you, I'm trying to understand what is it that, or imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I still might not agree with you, but it helps me to see you as a human because you are. And so trying to understand other people's experiences or their fears. I think sometimes opinions are often tied to pain.
Yeah.
Or they're tied to a family history.
Yeah.
Or they're tied to a formative experience we had. So trying to understand what it would have been like to have gone through that. Because think about this. If you had experienced the exact same things as that other person, you might have landed in the exact same place that they did.
Well, and it's good just to say, oh, I see how they get there based on what they've gone through. Like, I mean, I've done that dozens of times, and it's not that I agree then. It's just that, I realize how they got there. And that little bit of insight, that little bit of respect, that little bit of help on their journey makes me treat the person and the argument differently.
Yeah. It helps too.
Like it lowers the volume.
I was going to say, it immediately lowers the temperature of the conversation because I start to have empathy and compassion for the person that I'm talking to. So there's cultivating empathy.
Yeah, that's good.
This other idea of reframing disagreement. So disagreement is not dangerous, which is what we see. It's like it's a threat. If you have a different opinion than me or you have a different viewpoint than me, then you're a threat to me. Disagreement isn't dangerous. It can actually be developmental. We've talked about this a little bit already. By disagreeing, it helps refine my understanding of the issue. It helps you refine your understanding of the issue. It stretches our compassion. And we've talked about stretching equals growth. Mm-hmm. And it's just humble to be able to say, I could be wrong on this. Yeah. That to me is it's a hallmark of maturity.
Yep.
This is where I stand right now today, and I could be wrong, but this is what I think. This is why I think this way. Because I'd venture to say, I know in my life, and probably folks that listening, have you ever changed your opinion on a topic? Have you ever changed your perspective on something? So where you sit today, and I'm sure in the past you felt just as strongly about that opinion that you held then. And I want to pause here and say, we're not talking about core theological doctrines here. Yeah. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about these things that are matters of conviction or preference. Those are the things that we tend to disagree on. So, if we're having a conversation on the Trinity, I'm not going to say to you, well, I could be wrong. No, God is 3 in 1.
Right.
Like that just is. But in things that are less than that, having the ability to say, well, I could be wrong here. So I want to learn. I want to understand a little bit better. Mm-hmm. So reframing what disagreement actually is. And then the spiritual growth component. Every conversation we have is an opportunity, like we said earlier, to reflect Christ's love to the person we're talking to. And I'd say that's especially big for us as believers. When we get into a conversation with someone who is not a believer, who holds a different perspective than us, the way that we conduct ourselves in that conversation is going to be a reflection on Jesus. Mm-hmm. Whether you agree with that or not, it just is. So if I come into the conversation and I'm a Christian and the person I'm talking to is not, and I come out, man, loaded for bear, pistols blazing, angry, mad,
or just overly strong in your confidence.
Yeah, that's good. So even just that, then I'm going to give a perception to that person of Jesus because I claim his name that, well, Jesus is that way.
Cocksure and
so it really lessens my ability to exemplify Jesus to them. And I think listening becomes really an act of discipleship when it mirrors God's patience towards us. So God is patient with me. How can I not be patient with you in trying to understand you and your viewpoint and where you're coming from on this particular issue?
Well, 2 more thoughts on that. Spiritual growth through dialogue. Number 1 of the 2 of them is God also may want to teach you something, even through someone who's not a believer.
Yeah.
Like we can't presume that just because we're believers, we automatically know everything more if we're talking about politics or, vaccines. Like we too can learn something, and that posture of humility is very helpful. And God also may want you to say something, and not just the way we say it, but also it's possible, whether it's believers or non-believers, kind of on the other side of this disagreement, that we give testimony to the goodness of God and his generosity in dealing with us.
Yeah.
So it's not just that we're listening to understand and stuff. It's also, well, aside from the disagreement at issue, we may actually speak some words of life to someone, even though we didn't plan that to be part of this conversation. Mm-hmm. Like we can't tell God when he's going to use something evangelistically.
Yeah.
We just need to keep living for him. But with this idea of spiritual growth through faithful dialogue, you never know when we're going to learn something or when we're going to share something. And when we share truth about Jesus, we grow. Why? Because we're relying on him, we're giving witness to him, we're bearing testimony to him, and that is what grows us.
Yeah.
When we're out on the limb and we jump off the cliff and then he has to catch us.
That's right. He has to build the plane because we jumped off the cliff.
And he does every time.
And
that's the thing is we all want to build the plane ourselves.
Yeah.
But he's ready to if we would just speak a word of Jesus.
That's so good. No, okay. I love that. And I think too that when we talk about faithful dialogue, all those different things, when you're going into a conversation with somebody, just pray before you go in. Lord, help me to see them as an image bearer, as a human being. Help me to see them through your eyes, the way that you see them. And so help me to engage with them in a way that honors you, but also honors them as a person. Engage with them in a way that honors truth, but honors you as a person. Because polarization loses its power when we choose curiosity over condemnation. So if I come into the conversation curious about you, curious about you as a person, curious about, why you arrived at the opinion you arrived at, then I'm much less likely to have it go off the rails and get all out of sorts than if I come in already ready to condemn you because of the position you hold.
Well, and the first thing to go is curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
So that is great. Polarization loses power when believers choose curiosity over condemnation. That's so good. The polarization index just goes down when I just step out of the mainstream and say, well, tell me why you think that.
Yeah.
How did you arrive at that? Because that's really interesting. I mean, like you said before.
Well, we talked about these concepts of relational circuits and just in our own personal conversations, and I think in some other episodes. But yeah, the first thing when your relational circuits are off, the first key indicator is curiosity. Am I no longer curious about the person in front of me and what they're thinking and how they feel?
Yeah.
Then when that's gone, chances are we're not being relational anymore.
Yes. So then we're staunchly in the middle of this topic, which is disagreeing without dividing. Well, we don't care about dividing.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, we're going to land the plane. Give us some core takeaways and maybe a challenge.
Yeah. So just remember, root your identity in Christ, not in your opinions.
That's good.
Your identity in Christ doesn't change. Your opinions can change. So root your identity in Christ. Listen with curiosity rather than suspicion. Respond with grace instead of reacting to what the person says.
That's good.
Seek understanding before agreement. So when you go into the conversation, don't let agreement be what you're shooting for. Shoot for understanding. And then see if maybe agreement will follow, but go in desiring to understand. And then always protect the relationship over being right. I don't know if it's your friend, if it's a family member, at the end of the day, protect the relationship. The person in front of you is of eternal importance. And I mean, even if you don't have a friendship with them, just the sheer fact that it's a human being standing in front of you, talking to you, protect that human relationship over the necessity to be right all the time. So those would be my core takeaways from this one.
Very good. Very good.
So yeah, challenge-wise, I'd say if you're listening to this today, like identify one person or situation where you've avoided the conversation because of a difference, and think about how you might be able to re-engage that relationship with this posture of faithful dialogue that we talked about. Or if you are a keyboard warrior, consider going on one online space where you can choose restraint and maybe ask questions instead of clicking away and typing away a fast response. Be slow to post, quick to listen, slow to post, slow to be angry.
That's good. Somebody said social media is a microphone, not a telephone. So it's just a place for you to put out your opinions. No one's listening to you.
Yeah.
There's no dialogue. It's just,
that's a good point.
And there are some, but really very little. Like I'll go into threads and mostly they're not.
Yeah.
Every once in a while there is, but 1 out of 20.
And then just the way that Christians engage in disagreement, specifically with other believers, is as a living apologetic for the gospel. I'm thinking of, John 17, when Jesus plainly says that the way that we interact with one another is going to be a witness to the world around us of the validity or the veracity of our claim to follow Christ. So be mindful in your disagreements. And then just this challenge of when we model grace under pressure, we show the world a different kingdom. We show them a kingdom that's built on reconciliation and redemption and not on rivalry. And that's what God's kingdom is. God's kingdom is at the human level. Now, at the spiritual level, God obviously there's an enemy. But at the human level, this side of death, this side of the second coming, it's a kingdom of reconciliation. We are ambassadors of reconciliation. So keep that in mind when you're engaging with people that you don't agree with.
Love it. Love it. Well, Justin, thank you for helping us think through faithful dialogue, helping us think through the secret to disagreeing without dividing. It's okay to disagree, not okay to divide. or less okay. And as far as it depends on you, don't divide. As far as it depends on you, don't divide. But one conversation at a time, may faithful dialogue heal relationships and point people back to Jesus, who built the ultimate bridge. We can be small b bridge builders because of the capital B bridge builder.
Amen.
Thank you for this. Well, friends, we'd love to hear your comments, so feel free to comment here nicely.
Yeah.
Faithful dialogue.
Faithful dialogue when you comment.
And share this with other friends and like and subscribe here to Encounter Grace. It's a fun community that we've got going on, and we're glad you're a part of it. We'll see you next time.